Welcome back, guys. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for subscribing. If you're new to this channel, please do subscribe. Hit the bell button. Make sure that you're getting my content as I do release it. And guys, I really do appreciate it when you leave comments. That helps me to engage with you guys. It helps me to understand what you guys are looking forward to and what you guys think of the content. So please, guys, do leave comments. Let me know what you think. And yeah, today we're going straight to today's topic, which is very exciting. Today we're going to cover the different asset classes. So guys, what is an asset class? Before we define what asset classes is, I think it's safe to define firstly what an asset is. So an asset is benefits flowing to you due to a historic event. So basically, when you own something and that something gives you money, we call whatever you own an asset. So I know those who have read the book Rich Dad Poor Dad. In the book, Robert Kiyosaki is always encouraging investors to own income generating assets. So by virtue of that, we know that owning an asset means that money will be flowing to you. So that's what an asset is. So as an investor, we know that we need to accumulate as many assets as possible. So there are 4 different types of assets, which is the assets that will be covered as part of our asset classes. So the first one will be stocks. Next one is bonds. And then we have property. And then the last one is cash. So those are our 4 different asset classes. So the first asset class we're going to cover today is stocks, or shares as some call it. So that's basically ownership of a portion of a company. So I'll give you an example. So let's look at a company like Coca-Cola. Let's then make that company into a cake. So now Coca-Cola wants to sell a piece of their cake to shareholders to raise capital. So when you buy that piece of a cake, you own a share of Coca-Cola. So it's basically that. So you own a piece of a cake or a piece of the portion that makes up the company Coca-Cola. So the reason why you would own shares is that once their share price accumulates, so if Coca-Cola's price or the value of Coca-Cola goes up, so does the value of your shares. That's one way you are going to make a return of your shares. Another way that you make a return is when Coca-Cola then declares dividends. So dividends, what dividends are is that it's a bonus that the companies pay their shareholders for that loyalty, for owning the share. So at the end of the financial year, Coca-Cola will then sit and see how much profit they've made. And depending on how much profit they've made, they will then declare dividends. So a bonus to their shareholders. So that's another way you're making money off your shares. So shares, guys, are very lucrative because they can accumulate at a very fast pace. Just to understand how rewarding shares can be, you just need to follow stories like Capitec locally, and internationally maybe Tencent and the FANG shares in the USA. FANG shares being Facebook, Apple, Amazon, Netflix, and Google. Just follow those stories, see how those shares have appreciated over time. That will give you an understanding as to how rewarding owning shares can be. So our next one that we're going to cover in terms of our asset classes is bonds. So what are bonds? So bonds, we're not talking about your residential bond or your property bond. Bonds, we're talking about a lending option that governments and big corporates use in order to raise capital. So you as an investor will then pay the government and they'll give you your bond. And basically how you get an income from your bond is that on a monthly or on an annual basis, that bond pays you a percentage, and that percentage is called a bond coupon rate. So over time, you're collecting a bond coupon rate based on the bond that you own. And at the end of the term, let's say it's a 10-year bond, at the end of the term, they pay you back your principal, which is the amount of money that you have invested in. So that's how bonds work, guys. And they are relatively safe, unlike stocks, which are very risky. Although they're very risky, stocks, they are very rewarding, but bonds are generally very, very safe because they are backed by governments as well as they're backed by big corporates. So they're very safe asset class to have. So when you are assembling your portfolio, it's very good to have bonds in your portfolio to make sure that at least your capital has some sort of protection. And then the next asset class we'll discuss is properties. So properties, the way properties works as an asset class is if you're owning the property with the purpose of collecting rental income, as well as if you bought property, you renovate it, and then you sell it at a higher value, or you flip it. That's what they call it. That's when you classify it as an asset. If your property is your main residence, then we don't classify it as an asset. It's now a liability. And in the book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, they basically explain that in detail. So I don't want to go into too much detail to explain why a primary resident is not an asset, but it's a liability. So I will recommend that you read the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad to understand that difference. And then the last asset class we're going to touch on, guys, is cash. So cash and cash equivalents are basically assets that can be converted into money very fast. So those would be your bank deposits, your treasury bills. So anything that in a short amount of time can be converted into cash, we basically classify it as cash. So those are very, very safe, but you're earning a return that will just keep pace with inflation. So it's not from a high returning asset to have, but because of its safety and because of how liquid it is, meaning how quickly you can convert it to cash, it's also advisable to have a portion of your portfolio in cash. So guys, those are your 4 different asset classes, and I hope you understand what asset classes are and how you will then make up your portfolio to have a portion of all those different asset classes for different reasons, obviously, and make sure you're understanding the different asset classes. So guys, thank you for tuning in today. I hope this was very informative, and I hope you did love the content. Please do leave comments and I'll hit you up. I will make sure I reply to those comments. Give me ideas, give me questions of anything that you didn't understand or anything you want me to explain, and I will be explaining it to you. So thank you one more time, guys.